There's an urgent warning for all Bitcoin holders out there. There's a signal flashing right now that is spelling doom for the Bitcoin charts. Now, this seems to be a very accurate signal, so we're going to backtest to see just how accurate it is and see what is the next move for BTC. Now, the pattern we're going to be going over is the rounding top pattern, and we'll go over what it is and the price targets in 1 second. And it shocked me when I saw how low it's predicting Bitcoin can go. But let's look at Bitcoin over the last year. Now, right now, we're in the rounding pattern, and you can see one that also formed in this area right here. And so let's go ahead and break down what exactly is a rounding top pattern. So it's a bearish reversal chart pattern that signals a potential shift from an uptrend to a downtrend. A breakout below the neckline signals a potential reversal, but it's not a confirmed signal. It's not 100% accurate, but when it's accurate, it looks very bearish. Now, this rounding top pattern gives us a target. So you see the rounding top, you see the neckline, and then you'll see the target length for the downside, and gives you just a potential target for where Bitcoin could be heading. So let's go ahead and backtest this, because this is looking pretty scary. It's got some pretty scary signals, scary predictions here. So we're going to go back and look at 5 of these. This is the first one. So let's go to number 2 right here. Now you can see rounding top. This is just a very textbook rounding top pattern here. Let's bring it down a little bit lower just to make sure the top of this is hitting the top of this wick right there. And now let's go ahead and measure. Now let's go ahead and draw out the neckline. Then we're going to go ahead and move it to the downside just to see if this played out. And will you look at that very, very accurate signal that was able to predict the bottom for Bitcoin with a margin of error of, just a few $100s, less than $1,000 really. So at least in this case, it did play out. Now let's go back and look at 3 more. Now the third one actually topped off a little bit of a bullish pump there. Now this right here is going to be right around when BlackRock released their IBIT, aka Wall Street started getting an appetite for Bitcoin ETFs. And so we shot up very, very quickly, and then a rounded top pattern formed. So let's go ahead and measure this one to the downside as well. I guess you can maybe move it a little bit right there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and draw the line. We got our little bit of a neckline here, pretty accurate enough. And then we'll see, whoa, will you look at that? Yet again, this predicted a short-term bottom. In fact, we're looking at, yet again, a margin of error of just less than $1,000, a few $100. So far, this is a pretty accurate signal. Let's go to instant number 4. So this is the 4th time. And for these two, we're going all the way back to the previous cycle. Right now, we're looking at 2021, not the first run up, but the second run up, and did this play out as well. Now you see we have a rounded top on our little bit of a run to an all-time high. We ended up hitting in November 2021. And then this was the pump after the summer. So June, July, very, very bearish. We got a pump out of the dump, and then we got a rounded bottom. Let's do it one more time. All right, we draw the neckline, we go ahead and move it, and then we see what kind of target we got. And when you look at that, that is exactly where Bitcoin would consolidate before it found a new bottom. A lot of people thought 29K was going to be the bottom. Well, FTX and a couple exchanges went down, and that kind of changed that narrative. So let's do the 5th and final form, and then we'll look at the recent one and give you your updated Bitcoin price prediction. Well, if you look here, we got the rounded, we kind of wick down to the beginning part here. Let's go ahead and just slide this neckline over, and then we're going to go ahead and run it to the downside. There's no way that this predicted the bear market bottom, right? There's like no way this could just hit $16,000. And when you look at that, it also predicted the bottom. And when you got to zoom out to actually see it, wow, look at that. Yet again, this predicted within a few $100s. So let's fast forward to the present and see, oh my gosh, is this actually going to play out? So you can see the rounding top forming right here. Let's just go ahead and be a little bit more accurate. So this is only going to go to the top. So what are we looking? Well, we're looking at a short-term price prediction for around $94,000, $95,000. That's where a lot of analysts are saying it is the line in the sand for Bitcoin. But I want to tell you what happens if Bitcoin crosses that line in the sand. Well, it looks pretty scary, folks. Updated Bitcoin price prediction to the downside. If we do get a breakdown, aka, we see more tariff escalations, we see more escalations in the Middle East, all of this stuff can play out. And that has given us a pretty scary target $77,000 Bitcoin. So there you go. I do want to give you some downside risk analysis here. There isn't always green candles in a bull run. There isn't always green candles in an uptrend. In fact, in an uptrend, you can have several downtrends along the way. All you got to do is just look at the max chart on Bitcoin to see that play out. I'm DZ for Discover Crypto, and hopefully I'll see you not buying at the top, but buying at the bottom.